Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
I'm nobody. I came because I have no choice. I came to save my home and the people that I love.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast, part of the To the Infinity Saga and Beyond MCU fan podcast. So this episode is going to be a spoiler-free reaction of Matt Reeves' The Batman. So I have created, since we did the Peacemaker review, I have made its own Twitter, Facebook, Instagram of the Elseworlds DC podcast. So what that means is it'll still be on To the Infinity Saga and Beyond as a bonus episode. But if you'd like to just keep everything separate in your feeds and all that, there's a separate feed now for Elseworlds as well. And we'll continue to just release it on both feeds for now, at least. But yeah, so we're going to get into a spoiler-free reaction. I just got out of the movie. It just ended about 40 minutes ago. So left the theater, got home, took the dogs out, got back up here, started recording. So I'm not going to go over particular story beats. Just going to go over how this movie made me feel as a longtime Batman fan. And I'll do another longer podcast when we actually get my second viewing in and be able to think about everything a little deeper and get it deeper into the story and what they used as inspiration for the story. So let's get into it. I loved it. This is this is the Batman movie that I've been waiting for my entire life. And what I mean by that is I've been asking for a long time to have a more detective Batman in some of the games. And we get that in the Telltale series games, which is great. I read a lot of the Batman comics where he's more of a detective. Those are more interesting to me. And, you know, I was kind of hoping, and I think I remember when they announced Ben Affleck was going to be doing this movie originally, that they had said he was, there's rumors he's going to make an Arkham movie, something that took place in Arkham, and was going to be more detective based as well. And that made me really excited. Again, these rumors came out in like 2016, 2017, probably like summer of 2016, honestly. So when a lot of those rumors about what Ben Affleck's The Batman would be. Then, Matt Reeves gets it in 2017. They kind of beat around the bush on if Ben Affleck's coming back until Justice League came out and they were able to say, no, it's going to be its own thing. And I'm glad it's its own thing. I think this movie, and I was kind of worried when Matt Reeves got on then, not that, I've heard a lot of praise about him. I haven't seen his Planet of the Apes movies yet. I do own them though. Just haven't had the time to sit down and watch them. I was hoping, okay, well, hopefully he'll do something like the detective one, because I really liked what I heard from Ben Affleck. Rumors. Now, we don't know if that's actually what it's going to be then, because then rumors came out later saying Ben Affleck's movie was going to be more about Deathstroke and Batman going up against each other, and I'm not sure if that would have been the same thing that was rumored with the Arkham stuff. So, Matt main point, as I beat around the bush here, is that I've been waiting for something like this. This feels to me very Batman the Animated Series. I would actually say it really reminds me of the Telltale Batman video game. If you guys have not played that, I recommend checking that out. A lot of the same common themes and detective style in that, and some of the same story beats, which I really enjoyed. I really felt like they really mixed up some great stuff from other comics, video games, cartoons, to really other movies, to really fit what they were going with here. That's how I kind of look at it. So, I mean, I was never a super huge fan of the Nolan films. And I know right now it's kind of been popular for some fans of the Batman to kind of crap on those, or, you know, stuff like that. I'm not going to do that. You know, I never saw any of those movies in theaters. It was also at a time where I feel like we didn't go to the theaters that much, my family and I, as we do now. So that's part of it. I couldn't just go by myself like I could for this if I needed to. And I think what else so I kind of missed the boat on those films in that sense. So I was catching up on those on like video, and after all the hype and stuff, and maybe that's why those movies didn't land for me as well. But I've always wanted this mystery theme, this, you know, what I really like about this movie is that it's a race against time, trying to solve and get the Riddler before the Riddler can carry out all of his acts. Very noir-esque, very crime thriller, which is another good favorite genre of mine. So this movie is hitting all of those beats for me. That was perfect. Michael Giacchino's score is great. I've been, singing the main Batman theme, the bum, 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 the whole way home from the movie. It probably annoyed my wife so much. But ultimately, I'm very glad that this movie is now here. And I'm very glad that this movie is now something I was able to see. I'd been looking forward to it when it was originally supposed to come out in 2021 of June. And then COVID happened, and you're like, oh, geez, when are we going to see this? They had to stop filming and all that kind of stuff. And then, it gets slated for March, and here we are. We're finally here. So things I really liked. I really thought Robert Pattinson killed it as Batman. He's probably my favorite Batman. I loved how much Batman was in this movie. Like, no spoilers here, of course, but there's a lot of Batman in this movie, which I think we're not really used to for some of these type of movies. Some of these type of movies we're led to think, okay, well, they're going to show a lot of Bruce Wayne. We're then going to see a lot of, then we're going to see a lot of, Batman mixed in there. Like, we'll start with Bruce, then we'll get a little fight scene with Batman, then we'll go back to Bruce doing an event. And we do get some moments like that in this movie where we kind of see Bruce in other events. But a lot of it is Batman. And I think another thing I really like about this movie, again, this is no spoilers, how much Batman is in this movie and how much he's working with Gordon in this. And I think that's something that we've been missing in a lot of these film adaptations. I think the Nolan films really get Gordon pretty well. I think they get their relationship pretty well. But if you look at 89, Batman 89, Gordon is not as big of a deal. They don't work with him all that much. This is like, Batman solving crimes with Gordon, and that was a lot of fun. And Jeffrey Wright, he's one of my favorite working actors is what I meant to say. Working actors. He's one of my favorite working actors right now because, he voiced when we talked about What If on the Marvel show. He was the voice of the Watcher. He's been in Westworld, which is where I really started finding Jeffrey Wright more. I was in Westworld, and he was actually he was just voicing the Batman in the Batman Audio Adventures on HBO Max, which I was listening to some of that today. He is Felix Leiter in the James Bond film. He's been in a lot of great stuff recently that I've seen. So yeah, he's doing great. I was very excited for his Commissioner Gordon, and he did fantastic. So love that. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was, again, just another great treat. Paul Dano as the Riddler is amazing. Really amazing. Love the way he played it. I know a lot of people were very apprehensive about how Riddler was going to be portrayed in this movie as, no bowler hat, no green suit with the question marks and a cane and all that kind of stuff. But this is more of like a real world, real world Riddler who I think fits our world and the times that we're currently in, along with the Gotham set up in the movie. There's no way like Jim Carrey's Riddler would fit into this movie, or the cartoon Riddler. Like, there's no way any of those would work. And I love that they actually gave them riddles. There's some really good mysteries with this stuff as you're trying to solve it along with Batman. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Again, just perfect. This cast is actually just super stacked. Just absolutely stacked cast. We also got Andy Serkis as Alfred, who I thought was a really great Alfred in the little bit of time he got to shine in this. Colin Farrell, unrecognizable as the Penguin, and really just eats the scenery, chews the scenery, and does a lot with his limited time that he has, which was great. And, they're talking about making a TV show for Colin Farrell. So sign me up. I think that is a great idea after seeing this. So the cast is all great. And they just put in performance. For people complaining that maybe it's too long, I personally did not feel that way at all. I have a notoriously small bladder. Have a small bladder my whole life. I went to the bathroom twice during this film, and I still didn't feel like it was long. Like I've probably, let's say this. I saw Venom Let There Be Carnage, which is like a 98-minute movie. And that felt longer than this to me. And this movie's, pressing 3 hours. So for me, if you're having fun watching the movie, if you're into it, I don't think you really feel the length. I didn't feel the length in this. I think maybe I was kind of prepared because of people saying that there was a few points where you're like, oh, it could have ended here, maybe. Like, it seems like maybe this is an ending, but then something else happens. But when you look at the whole scope of the story, all of those things needed to happen. The story wouldn't have been wrapped up if they ended it at this certain part, So that's kind of how I look at it. Is maybe people thought it was going to be ending at that point because they didn't realize how long it was going to be, and then they kind of get, I don't know, faked out, I guess, almost like the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, where you feel like every time it fades to black, you're like, oh, it's over. Oh no, we're still here. Oh, it's over. Oh no, we're still here. That, though, for me, did not hit. And I can't tell if it's because I've been warned about the length or not. I can't tell that. For me, it flew by, which is great. So I mentioned second viewing. I'm going to go see this again tomorrow morning, and then I'll have a more fuller reaction on here, diving deep into some of the inspiration, diving deep into some of the cool little hints and nods that are in this movie to what could come. And then we'll break down the actual movie, not scene by scene like we do on some of the stuff here, but kind of like how we did with Peacemaker season 1 review, just kind of overall scenes I really want to talk about, moments I really want to talk about, where I see this universe of Matt Reeves going. And that's kind of how we'll, I think, go next episode. But look, I'm probably gonna say this is my favorite Batman movie, live action. If I had to ask, if somebody asked me, what's your favorite live action Batman film? It's this one. It's the one that feels the most Batman. It's the one that has, I think, the most screen time for Batman. It's got a scary villain. It has the murder mystery, crime solving, riddle solving parts I really want it, the detective aspects I really want it in this movie, which I think is another reason why I'm so high on it. Some people might not appreciate that aspect of Batman as much and just want to see the action, but I think even the action was really great. The action, which isn't done via shaky cam, as people like to call it. What we mean by that is Winter Soldier-esque, or even some of the Nolan, Dark Knight Rises. I just rewatched Batman Begins. I don't think that had too much shaky cam in it. But where they're trying to hide the choreography, or if something's not landing, by almost doing really quick cuts and camera movements that make it hard to see what's actually going on. This does not really have that. This, you're able to see oh, Batman's doing this, Batman's doing that. Kind of shot more old school, I guess you would say. I don't know how to describe that. But that is what I really enjoyed about this too, is I could actually see the action that was going on. Yeah, I don't want to keep going on too much. This is spoiler free. We'll get into more spoiler stuff next time, which will probably be up in the next day or so. But all in all, really enjoyed it, if you can't tell. My favorite live action Batman film. My favorite live action Batman. My favorite Gotham. I mean, that's something I didn't get to talk about. This looks like Gotham City. One of my complaints about the Nolan films is it kind of just looks like a regular American city. Burton has a really distinct feel. Schumacher has a really distinct feel for Batman Forever in its Gotham. But this, I really like the way Gotham looks here. Very gothic architecture, the Times Square-esque center that they have in this. That's another thing I really, really liked, is just Gotham City as a whole, and the corruption within Gotham City is really portrayed, I think, excellently, if I can speak. It's late, in this film compared to some other live action Batman films. But like I said, I'm going to go see it again. So we'll see if my feelings change anymore when I come back on. But maybe it'll feel longer for me now that I have already seen it. I don't know. But we'll kind of end it here, and we'll go waiting for tomorrow when I see it again, and I'm going to bring up all the actual story stuff that we'll talk about. So if you want to follow this podcast feed, so I do want to say this too. So for the DC stuff, if you want a separate feed, which is what I just created, it's It's called Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. We are on Twitter at Elseworlds DC fan, Facebook.com/Elseworlds DC fan. Email us, elseworldsdcfan@gmail.com. On the link tree, if you need to find a link to where to get the actual feed, the link tree site /Elseworldsdc fan, all that stuff is in the show notes. If you're listening on the Marvel to Infinity Saga, you know how to find us on there. But if you're going to give us any sort of feedback for DC stuff, we would recommend it go to elseworldsdcfan@gmail.com or reaching us out on Twitter and Facebook and letting us know your thoughts on the Batman or anything upcoming DC related. So I just want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll catch you all next time when I break down the actual story beats of the Batman.